Wireless LAN Professionals Podcast, Episode 115.
Wireless LAN Professionals is a place to educate, inform, encourage, and entertain those involved in wireless LANs. This Wireless LAN Professionals podcast is an audio manifestation of these goals. Our host is a wireless LAN veteran, consultant, designer, and teacher, Keith Parsons. And now, the podcast for wireless LAN professionals by wireless LAN professionals.
Wireless LAN Podcast. This happens to be an episode where Keith Parsons, me, is talking to Peter Mackenzie. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Keith. We
happen to be in a sweltering hot outside place in Orlando, Florida.
We are indeed.
We're as the pre-conference before the CWMP conference. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about last week, which for us was actually just a couple days ago.
It was indeed.
We were in Lisbon doing the WLPC EU conference.
That's right, yes.
And there you taught the CWAP class.
I did
in
indeed,
a boot camp, and then you're teaching again here, so you're getting really good at this thing now. Like, what, 50 times you taught it or something?
Oh, something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
A good number.
I thought it would be good for our podcast listeners to have a chance to just hear us talk a little bit about WLPC EU, the WLPCs, and why they're valuable in Europe, separate than in the U.S. I mean, we all love the ones in Phoenix.
We do indeed.
So, your impression of the last one in Lisbon?
Yeah, the last one in Lisbon was a great conference, really. I loved it. The main thing I love about these conferences is just the... It's all about the people. I know this is something you say a lot, Keith, but it really is about meeting with other people who work in the same industry as you, being able to chat to them, learn from each other, and I believe that's incredibly important in Europe, because I think there's a lot less opportunities in Europe to meet with other people working in the industry than there is in the US. There's just less conferences, there's less events that happen like that, and I think bringing that community together is a great thing.
The very first WLPC we held in Austin a couple years ago, the thing that shocked me most is after we're all done, went down to the bar, and there were people there talking for hours and hours and hours, just hanging out, being together. I'd initially thought that the conference was about, bring the people together, teach this technology. Yeah. There's the whole social aspect that's there as well.
For me, it's one of the most important aspects, because you're always learning in our industry, and you always have to learn. And actually, I think as much as there's great information in the presentations, which there was some great information this year, just as conversations in the bar, and when you have dinner, some of the times when you're just sharing our experiences with each other, even sharing similar problems that we face, how each different people have approached them and got over them, you learn so much just in those conversations with one another. And let's face it, there's not, in our everyday lives, there's not many people we can sit in a bar and have a deep conversation about our man with, or we can have a conversation about, when is CCI a problem, when isn't it? If I do that at parties in my house, people don't tend to turn up.
And your wife doesn't really listen to that very much at all.
She doesn't listen to that very much, no.
She's pretty good at tuning that out. So I like that, but I also like the social aspect that you find other things about people that I wouldn't have known. You're part of the Fringe Festival.
That's right, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
It takes 4 or 5 weeks of every one of your years.
That's right.
And there's other things about people. Kimberly Graves jumps Arabian horses.
That's right, yeah.
And you find those things because not only are the people you meet at these conferences colleagues, they work in the same industry. And by the way, if you work for one company this year, you might be working for another one in a couple of years, so
exactly,
be kind.
Right.
You also learn, and they become friends.
They do become friends, and they become people you get to know personally, and actually that's another advantage of going to these conferences. You get to see your friends, and you get to hang out with them.
It's great stuff. So after hours stuff, always good.
Yeah.
Just today, when we're recording this, we just released the videos from WLPC Europe. Very fast, within a couple of days they were up. The reason we do the recording is because not everyone can either afford to attend or take the time. So we want the knowledge to be shared as many people, so we professionally record it, put them up on the website. So anything that we talk about here from a content standpoint, anyone who's listening to the podcast can go to WPC, Wireless LAN Professionals or WLANpros.com, and all of the videos are available. But what was your top 2 sessions that you heard in Lisbon?
That's a difficult one because there were so many good sessions.
I mean, other than your own, of course.
Of course, my own was obviously, definitely top. No, I think for me, actually, from an information point of view, there was some sessions where I learned things which I probably didn't know before. And there's a few sessions that did that, so it's very hard to get it down to 2. But there was one by Nick Turner when he showed about editing in Akahau, how you can edit the report templates. And that was great.
And that was only a 10 talk.
And that was only a 10 talk.
And he stuffed a lot of information into those 10 minutes.
And he also provided a link there where you can download his templates that he's created. And that's that's just something which, if you don't know how to do that's invaluable information in terms of turning around a decent report to send to your customer in a format that you want to give it, and can save an awful lot of time report writing.
And he also mentioned there's a bunch of data that you can't even get in the UI, but
That's
you can
right.
get it out of the report.
Yeah, a bunch of data, which again I had no idea you could do. So there's a benefit straight away you can take away and turn around that as a benefit in the work you do, and I love that. I also actually, while we're on the sort of service softwares, the IBWave talk about how they do their 3D modelling on sort of uneven surfaces and surfaces that are on a slope. There's been, I think, a bit of a hole in the industry since the LAN planner tool has pretty much been discontinued for doing proper 3D RF modelling reflective. A lot of the sort of predictive modelling tools in the industry now are we're doing free space path lots modelling, and you hit a wall and it has an attenuation value and it affects how the signal goes through it. But we know Wi-Fi signals don't act like that in reality. They reflect off walls, they scatter, but a lot of the tools don't model that. So to hear a talk where someone's shown how they're trying to do that in a piece of software, made me interesting to want to check it out a bit more.
And the amount of math they do to test the model against real world.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't using the exact same frequency, but the technique of how to say we would like this to match reality, well, I was very impressed with.
Yeah, I was impressed with that. And yeah, just to have that level of sort of detail in trying to make sure it's right. What we actually display, is it actually accurate to what actually will really look like? And is that not important if you're going to do a predictive model?
And that was good on one side, but the flip side that kind of was the opposite reaction was, well, we can use this model or this model or this model or this model, and they showed 5 different ways of visualizing the same data. They looked really different.
They did look very different, yeah.
I mean, if I showed those 5 to my customer, he'd say, well, these 2 pass and these fail, and yet it's the same data. So I think we need to find one that we feel really comfortable with and stick with it. But I was impressed.
I think there's development there that needs to be happened, but it was interesting to see that development happening and to maybe see where it could potentially go in the future.
Obviously, they're doing a lot of thinking, some heavy math there. Then again, I like the math stuff. I'll pick the next one.
Okay.
LANcom.
Oh, yeah.
Philip talked about, and it's just when he presented and he sent through his title, I was intrigued, but it said 3 2.4 radios in one device.
No.
Now, of course, coming from Wi-Fi, I was thinking 3 2.4 Wi-Fis. What he's talking about, there's 3 2.4 radios, only one of which is Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Then they have the electrical signage on another one and BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy, on a third one. I could see some customers, especially in retail or offices where they have conferences and they want to highlight who's using which conference when. There might be a need for those to augment your 5 gig system.
And just understanding how those technologies interplay with each other and are complementary was actually quite impressive to some extent.
They're not exactly complementary.
No, not exactly.
But what LANcom had to do was say, well, if our Wi-Fi is on channel 6, on this one device, we can move the other ones someplace else.
That's what we're there.
And then between them, they can all negotiate. So they're all sharing the entire 2.4 bandwidth as clean as possible. And that took some intelligence.
It did. Yeah.
So
it was nice to see them do that. Yeah.
What would you think of Mist?
So I really like a lot of the concepts behind Mist. Obviously, Mist are using AI to try and bring intelligence into the...
okay, so how many times did she say AI in our presentation?
I probably lost count on that.
I lost count over 50, so it was...
It was definitely using AI.
It was definitely an AI-focused talk.
It was definitely an AI-focused talk. And, I think they've got some really smart things that they're bringing out there. It's our idea of collecting data and big data. So what you need is as many data points as possible, and then being able to use that information, I guess, to fix problems and to identify problems and to identify the root cause of a problem. I've seen a lot of systems trying to do this in the past, and they don't all do it that well, to be honest with you. But I think Mist definitely seems to be heading in the right direction, and I've got to admit I was fairly impressed.
Well, I really liked the whole part of the talk on the AI and how we can, if you get enough big data and you correlate it nicely and you have a big enough engine and it's all done in the cloud, you could... she even said the words RF engineer in a box.
She did.
A whole bunch of us kind of cringed when we heard that, but she had some legitimate reason to support it, and I think I would like to see it head that direction. I was a little, and this is again just a thing against Mist in general. They have a great story when it comes to what she talked about first.
Yeah.
They also have a really good story about their BLE and the way they're doing BLE. I don't know for sure if they need to be in the same box.
No.
They're two entirely different technologies. They do two different things, both valuable. But sometimes when I see them do demos and talk, they try to focus on both, when really they're both individually separate, useful technologies. And so I can see some of my customers perhaps liking one or the other. Both is a kind of a stretch, because they're kind of two different audiences.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it comes out.
And I'll tell you my worry with AI. Although I think it's a sort of engine in a box, I think we're heading that direction, and it's generally a good thing. But my worry is that we're de-skilling the engineer, because we're taking away the ability to need to know as much from your engineer. And if AI might be right 90% of the time, but then what happens at 10% when it's wrong? When AI hasn't fixed a problem,
and you don't have an
engineer who knows how to fix it. And I don't know. I think that's a potential. That's something that we need to think about as we go more down the AI route. Is what happens for that time when it gets it wrong? When it still doesn't work and it's not been fixed through AI, have you got anyone left to fix it?
Hopefully, we'll have someone there. One of the discussion points we had earlier
I'll leave people my number.
Peter, 86541. One of the discussion points we're having on dinner, also talking about AI, so we'll just kind of meld this right into the Mist thing, is AI by itself, when it's just algorithm-based, I think is a little weak. But how you're building your AI for your whip system is helping the AI learn from what the human would do. I totally applaud that. Anyway, you can tell us a little bit about that whips. I mean, no, he's not in a 15-minute. Just what do you have there?
Just very quickly. So we first of all run managed services for people on managing their whip solutions, and we've been actually feeding that information into Splunk. And one of the ideas is we want to try and get rid of the false positives, which is why we've been initially fed all the data from all the alarms into Splunk. And
so you get the data to you, not directly to the customer, and then you're the human filter.
We're the human filter, and we Splunk does some of the work for us. It recognises certain alarms and it says together that's a more notable event. But we look through those alarms and we say, okay, this is something that we need to report to the customer because I know Wi-Fi, I know security, because these things have occurred, this event is something that needs actioning, these that don't. And then what we've been doing is the events we respond to the customer, we've been putting that information back into Splunk. So we say we've responded to these actions or these alarms that have occurred. Once we do that, the idea was, can we use AI to make that decision making forwards? That was what we wondered, and Splunk has some standard AI algorithms. So we picked one after looking at them all, and we've got it to look at all the decisions we make. So it knows which alarms we report to the customers, which we don't, and it's and we got it to look at all the alarm information along with the actions we make and say, can it start to predict which things should get reported? So we've been running it alongside our manual process for a few months now. And every month, at the end of the month, we say, which actions did the AI think we should report and which did we actually report? And I will be honest, I have been incredibly surprised that it pretty much every month gets its smack on. So after a few months of learning, but it's learned the human behaviour of what I do, and it's decided to be able to make the same decisions I would make.
And I like that part of the AI, that it's learned from you. I have this fear that some AI in the RF engineer in the box ideas they're trying to write the algorithm to do it all and to not learn from the human.
Yeah.
So you didn't program your Splunk to do what you do. You trained it.
We did.
To do what you do.
And we use a standard AI learning algorithm, and we just gave it the inputs and it did it.
Good stuff. Another session that you enjoyed at WPCEU.
Oh, another session. I quite like Troy's session because I learnt about a completely new technology I'd never heard before. It was called Heart. I'm trying to think of what the. Can you remember what was it? HeartNet or?
Yeah,
HeartNet, I think, which was a.
Troy Martin, you can go on the
Troy
website.
Martin, you can go up and look at it, but it was to me again a completely new technology I'd never heard about. It was using 802.15.
But kind of, it wasn't straight up 15.
No, it was 15.3 or 6 or something. But it was using the sort of frequencies between the channels. That was really interesting, actually, to see how it's been used.
It's part of the reason I like WLPCs in general, that some people come up with ideas that are just, I mean, it's hard to choose which ones come in, other than I know some speakers, every year they come up with something unique that I didn't know of. It has to do with what we do in our industry. Yeah. It was something I wanted to learn, but didn't know I even wanted to learn it. And now I walk away when I have a chunk of information. I can go back and look. There's links. I can go follow up. So that's one of the benefits of the conference. And for those who don't attend the conference, strongly recommend you go look at these. Even they're just little 10 minutes. Download them, take them with you, turn them into a podcast if you like to just listen. It's a good way to learn new things you might not have thought about before.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and that's something that I really enjoyed about that talk. It was something I didn't even know I wanted to learn because I knew nothing about it. So
I was impressed with how many CWNEs we had.
Yeah.
Just a couple years ago in Europe, if we got 5, it was a really big deal.
That's
there wasn't
true.
even that many in Europe, and it's been escalating, and we have many, many more. I think we had 20, or at least 20, stand up and say that they were CWNEs just in Lisbon of the audience there. So there's a percentage that's going quite up.
And what was impressive, I was chatting to one of the guys in the bar that evening, and until he stood up the next day and said he was a CWNE, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
And we even got some like CWNE number 15.
Yeah.
I'd never met him. He's like he disappeared off the face of the earth. He shows up, knows a bunch of Wi-Fi, and he was a good guy to talk to. So it was fun getting more people involved, and the newbies are coming along too. They're like, hey, I like where this is going. How do I get started? So there was quite a few talks on my path to CWNE.
That's right.
Where you should go, and I think we both agree. After CWNE, the next one is
CWAP.
That's it.
Every time.
Every time. You heard it right here. Peter Mackenzie, Keith Parsons agreeing on one thing. Take that AP next. Not only because you teach AP.
No, not only because I teach all the classes, but it's lays the foundations for every other course you're going to do. It's fundamental to how Wi-Fi works. And if you're going to then go on and do SP, then you're going to start be talking about security exchanges.
And you've already seen them.
And you've already seen them. So it's going to make it easier.
And this weekend I'm teaching DP, and so many times to talk about a topic in DP, I have to back up and teach the AP part of it.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
for those who don't have AP yet, both SP and DP will be easier if AP's out of the way.
It will indeed.
Not to mention, I think it's the most fun.
I think it's the most fun as well, but
not everyone appreciates packets.
No,
though.
They don't appreciate them. Not like I do.
Well, you can make OmniPeak just sing, so we appreciate that. You're probably not going to bring it up, but your talk on using OmniPeak and finding answers.
Yeah.
I was impressed that as you were just in a trace file and you went, oh, do this, add this, do this column, come here, sort by this, show this, oh, there's the next issue. And the flow of your thought process to find the issue you were looking for was art. That it was to watch went, oh, wow. One, you obviously have a ton of experience in the tool. It feels comfortable for you in the tool. But also the thought process of, well, if this was this, then I should be looking at this column of data. Let me go make that column right away. You make the column, now let's sort it. Let's find out which one's here. Okay, let's give it a tag. And so if you haven't, go and watch Peter Mackenzie's, what was the actual title on that one?
I call it Real World Analysis.
Oh, what a boring title.
It was a really boring title.
I'm sorry.
But
the process was intriguing to watch, educational, and something we should all aspire to.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to just show the way I thought when analysing, because a lot of people have asked me that question. So I thought, why not try and do it in a talk?
Do it live right there.
Yeah.
Nothing like demo gremlins coming to haunt you when you do a live one in front of everyone else that's non-practiced. But you pull it off really well.
Thank you.
We're here at CWP Conference in Orlando. In a couple months, well, actually next week, the week after this is published, we'll be putting out call for papers for WLPC in Phoenix in February. It's February 20 to 22. The weekend before, we're going to be having boot camps. Would you like to... I'm officially right now offering you want to come and teach CWP there again.
I would love to come and teach CWP.
Of course. I'm sure we can fill the class. Everyone loves sitting in this class. I personally teach AP, but I've sat your class 3 times and enjoyed every time and learned things from it. So if you've taken it before... In fact, I think this weekend, I know of 4 or 5 people who are already CWNEs in your AP class.
I have a few CWNEs in my class right now.
So they've already taken AP, but they're taking it again.
And I've got 3 people who have, at the moment, submitting applications to be a CWNE.
Oh,
so they've already got AP. Yeah. I've got 5 or 6 people.
And that's totally fine. Because you can never practice too much on
you can practice too
packets.
much.
And they just feel good when you get it to go right. Any recommendations for those who haven't been to a WLPC?
Just come. Come to Phoenix. You're going to meet some great people. And you're going to be welcomed. The thing I've always think about the sort of wireless community when you come to a WLPC is everyone welcome you. People will invite you out for dinner with them. People who you might consider a rock star in the field
aren't.
Or maybe not. But people who you will want to sit and hang out with you that you can learn a lot from. So come and hang out with us, guys, and learn. And enjoy being part of the community, make connections. You're going to make friends as well that will stay with you for forever, that will help you out when you get stuck on a problem, that will share information with you. And there's no better way to learn, I think, than get together for a week.
There's a term that I learned first from Dwight D. Eisenhower. He was a general and the president of the U.S. And he had this term, and I didn't understand it when I was younger. And I read some book that he had it in it, and it was be in the arena. Not in the stands. Get on the floor of the arena and engage. By coming to a WLPC, you're entering the arena.
You are indeed.
Now you don't have to battle with anyone, fight with anyone. You can just sit around and listen. But if you engage with people, they'll engage back, and you'll be one of the ones that they ask questions for. Today, you might not have any skill sets, or you don't think you do, but you have experience that no one else does as well. And just that process of engaging with others, asking questions, helps you lead and keep this career moving forward. So, like you, I think anyone who's thinking about coming to a WLPC, just do it.
Just do it, yeah.
You'll have a good time.
Come along.
Not to mention, you'll have a good time on top of learning things.
You'll have a great time. You're going to learn a bunch of stuff that you didn't know. And, what would be better? What's better than that?
I think getting cool stuff in your bag.
Oh, getting cool stuff
there is
in your
that
bag.
cool stuff in your bag, but that's not why you come. No one comes for that.
No one comes for the cool stuff. They come to be part of it. Be part of it. You're not just coming to attend an event. I don't think when you come to, and it's what I love about the WLPC conferences, you don't just come to attend the conference, which I think some conferences you do. You go to and you're an attendee and you listen and you get fed information. You come to be part of it, and to whether you're speaking at it or you're getting information from it, you feel part of an event, and you're taking part and you're giving and receiving information, and I love that.
I think we're on average now, we're more than a third of the attendees actually present as well.
Yeah.
It is about the people, and they're the ones who are doing the presentations. So don't be afraid when it comes up and you see a call for presentations. Throw an idea out there. Now, just so everyone knows the process, we ask for a call for presentations. We get a ton of them back. I sort them, put them into a survey. We send the survey out. Hundreds of people answer the survey. We then sort the survey answers, and the top ones get the hour-long slots. The next ones get the 30-minute slots, and then we have a bunch of 10-minute slots at the end. If you don't even get in the 10-minute slot, ask me. We might even be able to squeeze one in at the end. But that's the process. This is about the things people want to talk about. So if you want to be engaged, send in your presentation.
And don't be scared about it or scared about what you're going to talk about, because you have valuable information which maybe people haven't thought about.
And actually, some of the 10 talks are the better talks that I've seen, because it forces you to coalesce. You're not rambling. In 10 minutes, you got to get your point across. And there's some really, like Nick's was a perfect example. In 10 minutes, we learned a ton about how to do something that's really useful. So, well, good deal. Thanks for your time. I appreciate you spending your little time with us this evening. We'll get this out
pleasure.
to the process. And next time, we'll have a little one on the CWMP conference, because they're back-to-back this year. And stay tuned. Hopefully, you'll listen in on a podcast next week and hear even more about what we're doing. Thanks for listening.
Wireless LAN blog reviews with Glenn Cate.
Well, Glenn, welcome back to the show. What Wi-Fi blog site are we reviewing today?
Hey, well, thanks, Matthew. Appreciate the invite again. This website review for the week is authored by a very well-known WLAN professional, and his name is Devin Aiken.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone knows Devin. His website is named Diversion Dynamics, and this is a VAR that he has founded. You can find his website at divdyn.com, and Devin's Twitter handle is at Devin Aiken. Everyone knows Devin, it seems like, in the Wi-Fi community. He's CWNE number one. Yep, that's right. He is CWNE numero uno.
Wow.
Actually the co-founder of the CWNP program. He's worked for different Wi-Fi vendors, and presently he's a consultant for his own VAR and is a great WLAN instructor. He speaks at a lot of the Wi-Fi conferences, and definitely you should follow Devin on Twitter.
So what's his site all about?
Yeah. Well, Devin's website is part VAR, part blog, and part Wi-Fi training. I got his webpage up on my my MacBook here, and I'm looking at the tabs: Wi-Fi training, resources, solutions. I like that Devin has some great training classes listed here, and anyone I know that's attended a Devin Aiken training class tells me it's one of the best ones out there.
Cool.
He's got a blog tab as well on his site, and he puts his personal blogs, and those also really deserve a good read. One example, I think, if you can just turn on and look on his website, is Radio Resource Management. A lot of people think you can just turn on RRM and go your merry way, and Devin says, nope, you can't do that. And he gives his own opinions on Radio Resource Management, his opinions on the dual 5 gig radios, which are coming out by a couple of vendors now. He talks about primary and secondary coverage, why you should disable lower data rates, and he's just got some really good stuff on his website. If I can give you a second thing, what I really like about his website is again, his Wi-Fi training tab. He's got some great classes listed here. He has a CWNA, CWAP, CWDP, and I think he's coming out with a security class as well. And he's got a soft skills class for sales engineers. I know some people who've taken the soft skills class, and they say it's some of the best out there. So I think peruse his website a little bit, and you'll find some good stuff.
Anything we don't want to miss on the site?
Well, Devin has a tab that goes to resources and library. And here he has archived some of the best vendor industry documents and some white papers on WLAN technology. You can download these files or read them at your convenience. He's also listed some video links for presentations at various website conferences. Now, I really love Devin's humor on Wi-Fi. One of his blog sites, he says there's 3 kinds of Wi-Fi networks. Number 1 is a crappy network. Number 2 is a so-so network. And number 3 is a high-performance network. So
I'm guessing we want to go for number 3 then, right?
Well, unless you want a crappy or a so-so network. And Devin just says, hey, that's just it. You can design a bad network or a good one. What do you want to design? And he's really true. There's lots of things you want to include and don't want to include in your network design. So these are just some super things that he has on his website. Definitely, I think you ought to check out Devin's website. Kudos to Devin and his website, DIVDYN.com. Check it out.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for the review. And we can follow you on Twitter.
Yes, you can follow me at grkate, and look forward to following you back. I usually, when a Wi-Fi professional follows me on Twitter, I follow them right back. So I want to see what they're doing as well.
Great. Well, this is Matthew.
And this is Glenn Kate, reminding all you Wi-Fi professionals out there to keep on blogging in the free world. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
10 Talks.
Even though I work at Syracuse University and I do a lot of writing and I have a side career in the media, I also have my own little teeny tiny IT company, and you're about to see one of my customer case studies. This is upstate New York. We're going to zoom in, but first I need to zoom out. Here in Elbridge, this is where the farm is located, but also in Weedsport, there is a smaller farm, call it the headquarters farm. There's a smaller farm in Weedsport, and then down this road right here that bisects it east-west, they're about to open up a really nice high-end cafe. This particular dairy farm is one of the premier dairy farms in New York. They do a lot of training. They do a lot of work with Cornell, so it's kind of like an upscale dairy farm. However, their IT situation was not upscale. It was an absolute nightmare. Before I zoom out from the big view, the 2 other sites, I'm going to focus on the headquarters sites, now connect back to the main site with site-to-site VPN for things like time clock, time and attendance, and a couple of other things. So we end up with 3 sites connected, although I can't really show you that in the short time I have, but it is an interesting part of the story. So now, switch apps so I can draw a little bit. Here's the farm. Pro version for the iPad Pro. So here's the farm. I'm going to attempt to do a little bit of scribbling. This building right here is the office. And here we have the parlor, the milking parlor. Over here we have the robotic feeders, just call it robots. We have the house. The other buildings are important for various things, but from the networking perspective, you're looking at the ones that we care about. In the office building, and I know that we have time, so I'll talk, or that we have short time, so I'll try to talk really fast. In the office building, part of the challenge there, I started to say I inherited an absolute mess when I took this site over. Literally every building had at least 2 routers in it. I still don't know what the guy was trying to achieve. 2 consumer-grade routers, a lot of weird wiring. They had at least 7 4G cells doing this entire site. What you don't see on this diagram up here at the top, that's a cell tower, and it's on their property. They didn't know enough to negotiate ISP service for the farm when they got into the cell tower. I was able to fix that. That's its own story. I got them a 10 meg connection after some serious negotiating with one of the people up there, that we were able to leverage the cell tower to get that good internet connection that ended up putting all of the rest of the dominoes in a row where I could knock them down and make the whole thing pretty. So all of the disparate networking went away in this office building. Had to make use of Ethernet over power, where there was no cabling to get to a couple of places that they were trying to do some weird in-building wireless bridging that never worked. I mean, it was really, really strange. The amount of hardware I took out of there, if you set it here, it would be about probably half the height of a car. And they've only got at the end of it like 16 computers and devices, and the whole thing was really strange. So other than having to disassemble and bring it back, as I talked with the farmer, very nice lady named Nancy, my goal is to set it up right. Unlike your other guy, never come back unless you want to have me to your Christmas party. I don't have a lot of time. This is a side business. I don't want to see you again. It should just work, and I can manage everything remotely because I put in a Meraki system. So what we end up with, here is Time Warner, where we have the star, and that's where the ISP comes in. This is a 5 gigahertz bridge to the office, feeding everything in the office. This is a 5 gig bridge over to the robot building. And they do have robotic feeders, absolutely fascinating. A little chip in the cow's ear. The cow approaches the feeder. If it needs to be fed, the machine will feed it. If it doesn't need to be fed, the cow is allowed to go through the motions and suck on the little rubber thing and just doesn't get anything out of it. Well, there's a joke there. I just can't pull it off. If only I was on my game. And then the house is essentially the base operations for this entire complex. You'll notice the trees. This view doesn't do justice. I could not get a decent link through those trees, so I had to put in a 900 megahertz. Come on back. Sorry about that. That was my palm. No. Okay, there we go. I had to put in a 900 megahertz link from the house to the parlor. So we end up with 3 bridge links. They do have guest Wi-Fi, which is kind of neat because in the office building here, they do, again, conferences with Cornell University where other farmers come in, get educated. They have dances, and they want people to be able to get on the Wi-Fi if they want. So through the Meraki, given that it's only a 10 meg pipe, I'm able to do some rate limiting, and there's things that they wanted blocked. Nobody should be able to do it. Anyhow, I don't know how we are for time. Thank you. Okay, got a few minutes. So all of the things that I do in my enterprise sites, almost everything, we managed to leverage here. Matter of fact, when I first got the call, knowing that this particular customer actually had a little bit of budget and that they wanted to do it right and I wanted to do it right, and she's showing me her data bills with the ridiculous things going on, 4G, and the fact that there was no documentation whatsoever from the other guy, and I was just taking on a nightmare. I showed her some of what I do at other sites, and this was basically the sales pitch. We use, in the Syracuse University branch site, we use Meraki. And there's an AP out here, I know that. I showed her, this is just a real quick look at the front door of our London campus. I was able to show her this is what I do for these sites that we manage a long way away. And to me, I know that you have no IT staff, so I want to put in something that I can manage from home, which isn't too far from her place. But 24 hours a day, there's monitoring, important devices go down, you get the alerting. If anybody's familiar with Meraki or similar solutions, you can see the application stuff up here. I'm touching it. I'm assuming you know what I'm talking about, even though you can't see what I'm touching. But able to leverage things like, again, the rate limiting, the alerting if devices go down. They've got the very important robotic feeder that I mentioned. They've got a weather station that by law, because of the class of farm they are, they have to keep up and provide public access to. They've got a handful of really unique things. The entire operation is just fascinating. I wish I had more time to talk to you about the tractors and the things that go on in the field and all of that. It's all really, really cool. But as I showed Nancy, the farmer, it's Nancy and John, but Nancy obviously wears the pants in the family. They're just such nice people. Showing Nancy all of this and what's available for her behalf from doing it, from home once it's set up, she fell in love with it. And it's just been absolutely dynamite. So again, I started off with what I'm calling the headquarters farm. Getting down to the wire here. Started off with what I'm calling the headquarters farm. I got this squared away. It took about legitimate 3 days I started off going down the road of trying to figure out what they had, and then I just said, screw it, it's such a mess. Start from scratch, and she was game with that. So I started off with this. Then the other farm, way far away, they were having some abuse problems on the computer. The one computer they have there for a very important dairy application, I was able to put a Meraki Z1 telecommuter gateway in there, and the same thing with the rate limiting and the application blocking and the ability to monitor what's going on. So she went from having 4G bills that approximated $1,200, $1,300 a month. I got her to sign up for a 12 gig plan for $80 a month. By my estimation, she was allowed to have 400 meg a day. They're not using 40 now that we capped all the bad behavior. And so if she ever needs to add, her ISP out there is, got enough capacity and all that. And then the cafe is the new thing coming on. And the ability to bring all the time clocks and everything back to this central location. Even though you look at it from above, it's a farm, it's still a legitimate IT environment. Things like UPSs and just all the little things that make a network successful. As I look at my last 4 seconds here, it was just a really fun job to do. These are the kind of things I like doing in my own little business. So there you have it.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Wireless LAN Professionals Podcast, the podcast for wireless LAN professionals by wireless LAN professionals. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Wireless LAN Pros for all the latest news and updates, and also connect directly with Keith on Twitter at Keith R. Parsons. Head over to www.wlanpros.com for this episode's show notes, as well as the latest in all things Wi-Fi.